Hello everyone and welcome to the Los Alamos challenge video with the Comma 3X running SunnyPilot. We're right here in New Mexico State Highway 502 going up to Los Alamos, just past the junction with New Mexico 30, and that one goes to Española. So this is a very challenging stretch of divided highway, a multi-lane highway. Coming up, there are going to be some tight curves. Let's see how it does. And keep in mind that the system here, Comma 3X and SunnyPilot, is controlling the steering, and I'm controlling the speed manually with the accelerator pedal. I'm here in the Kia EV6. And the key feature about SunnyPilot is that it allows you to control the speed and the steering independently of one another. So you can have, like I'm doing right now, where you control the speed and the system controls the steering. Compared to stock OpenPilot, they forcibly link the two, so you have to use smart cruise control, or you can use the experimental one on its own. But yeah, so I'm going to control the speed myself, and let's see how it does. Running the latest version. So yeah, hopefully the new driving model works pretty good around these curves, and it's been performing pretty good. So let's see how it does here. So this is the first of a few sharp curves. So let's just make sure it doesn't go too far into the other lanes. It usually cuts in the curve a little bit, so it says it exceeds the limit there. So slow down just a bit. And it does give you those warnings, so it lets you know when you need to take control or slow down. And we're just going to nudge the wheel a little bit because it's cutting a little bit close to the inside lane on the left. And when the system detects that you're nudging the wheel, it turns to a gray highlight around the device. So it lets you know that it's giving you control temporarily. But I'm sure the stock Hyundai Kia system would have already canceled out by now. It just cancels out with no warning. But like I said, this one here will chime at you when it needs you to take control or when it needs you to slow down or anything like that. So that was the tightest curve, so that's over. That's pretty good. I didn't really have to nudge the wheel too much, and it detects whenever it goes near the lane lines, but it did pretty okay back there. It didn't really go into the other lane that much. And of course with this wide shoulder on the right, it does cut a little bit more into it. And the system here can even do auto lane changes, so you can signal and nudge the wheel, and it will do that even around a curve. The stock system wouldn't do that. And when you come to a split like this, make sure to just nudge the wheel. It usually follows the dashed lane lines, but if the lane lines are faded, it'll follow the right edge or whatever lane line is clearest. So yeah, just make sure to nudge the wheel whenever the system is a little bit unsure or when the lane lines are a little bit faded. So now we're coming up to a stretch right here where it's a 2-lane highway right now. So let's see how it does. So it's doing pretty well right here. Of course, there's a narrower road and there's not much room for error, so you do have to nudge the wheel and adjust a little more. And especially since it sees there's no shoulder, but it has edge road detection, so it knows that the guardrail's the edge of the road and that the shoulder is really narrow, so it's going to tend to go more towards the center of the road. Coming up on one of the sharper stretches of road here, so we'll slow down. And let's see if we can take it hands-free. Just a few adjustments there. I did pretty good. And this stretch, it's doing pretty good here. And like I say, just have to adjust a little more on the 2-lane roads, but that is pretty good. The stock system would have just canceled out around that tight curve, and since I took it so slow, it didn't even chime or give any warnings. But of course, it just does tend to cut the curves a little bit short, so you do have to nudge the wheel to adjust it. But let's see how it does on the stretch going downhill, leaving Los Alamos, especially with the sun not directly in front of the camera. It should do a little bit better, especially when going downhill. it tends to do a little bit better than going uphill, especially if you have that side advantage going downhill. So let's take a look at that going downhill. So we left Los Alamos already, and we're descending back towards the Rio Grande. So here's this stretch here on a 2-lane road. This is probably the toughest stretch right here. Just have to nudge the wheel a little bit. But other than a few, like 2 or 3 small nudges, it took that okay. Let's see this section here. And it's doing this, hands-free, a little bit close to the center, but not too bad. And then another section right over here. Did that pretty good. And then right through here, no interventions necessary, so that's pretty good. And pretty soon we're gonna get another lane, so we'll see how it does on the multi-lane stretch. Tighter turns, but at least there's multiple lanes. So it's after this junction, so let's skip ahead. Coming up is the toughest stretch on the multi-lane highway here, just to the east of Los Alamos, so let's see how it does. Speed limit goes down to 40 miles per hour. So we're just gonna slow down to about that speed, or maybe a little bit 5-10 over, and let's see how it does. This next stretch here doesn't look like there are any cars behind close by, so let's see how it does. It's doing pretty good through here. No need to nudge the wheel, it's staying within the lane lines. And here's the other part of the curve. And it's doing really good. Keeping the hands close to the wheel just in case, but it's doing that pretty good. And then the last bit of the curve over here, some more traffic. It's just crept up behind, so I might have to adjust it a little bit, but some micro adjustments right here, but otherwise at the end, just because there's some other traffic, but otherwise, and that was probably the tightest part of the curve, descending down the hill, but it did that pretty good. Seems like it took the hill, seems like it took that curve going downhill a bit better than going uphill, because there's a little bit more visibility when you're going downhill compared to going uphill. But otherwise, very good, no major interventions necessary, just a few nudges going uphill, and going downhill maybe just 1 or 2 around that curve. So it did pretty good. The stock Hyundai Kia system definitely wouldn't be able to do that. And there weren't any chimes or any warnings that I needed to slow down or anything like that. So I took the curve about what the rated speed limit was. So yeah, it did pretty good. So we're approaching the end of the test, but I'd say that's a successful test for the Comma 3X running SunnyPilot. Be sure to get subscribed and check out other videos on my channel. I have a bunch more Comma 3X driving tests. The next one is going to be the Trans Mountain Challenge. That one's a pretty tough road, but that one's a full expressway or freeway, but pretty tight curves. And also check out my EV6 road trip video series. More videos will be coming soon, so be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss out on any of those videos.